Mr. Bone, when is the last time you listened to an episode of WBH Radio?
That's a good question. It was sometime probably this summer. I've been kind of dealing with under the weather, so.
I hear you. How'd I do?
Great. You're much better on the radio, and then when you're kind of shy when you talk to me, sometimes off the radio. But here, this is your environment.
This is my environment. Well, I try, and I know this is your first podcast appearance.
Absolutely.
So I told myself I'm gonna try to bring my A game, give you the best show, man. So let's do it. You're listening to WBH Radio. I'm your host, William Holley. Thank you for tuning in. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not really a fan of any particular team. You know, I kind of really don't get fandom. Like, you mean to tell me we're gonna cheer for this team no matter how good or bad they are, no matter how many people's on the squad? But there has been a team that I found myself cheering for multiple times over the years because of their personnel, because of their identity, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. And I thought it would be cool to invite one of the biggest Ravens fans I know. In fact, he's the head of a whole household of Ravens zealots, Mr. Otis Bowen. Welcome to the show, sir.
What's up? How you doing?
I'm good. Now, your fandom is due in part to you living in close proximity to the squad. You're down there in the Maryland area, correct?
Yeah, that's the suburbs of Maryland.
Okay.
Suburbs of Baltimore.
And the Ravens, when you compare them to some of the more traditional squads like the Giants and the Cowboys, they're relatively new.
Yes, historically, yes.
1996 was their first year. What do you remember about the first time you learned your city was going to get an NFL franchise?
Well, I wasn't born in Maryland, but when I relocated and started my family, I always wanted to be a fan and go to a game of a sports team. So around 96, I kind of saw that, I think it was Governor Schaefer was doing a tour and trying to get the team back because Jacksonville kind of got the next choice of teams. So they, I forgot how they announced it, but I just heard that we did get the team after Jacksonville, and next thing we had to name the team.
Now, I'm sure that was exciting, but it was just the Browns being repackaged and shipped to the East Coast and put in black and purple jerseys. Did that kind of like temper some of your excitement? Like, oh, it's just the Browns?
Well, for me, I knew that I was going to approach it as I'm going to see other professionals all over the league.
Right.
So initially, yes, it did tamper it down, and the fan base had been watered down because you had a void for a while. Mm-hmm. So you had some people, going over to the Steelers, and that's why you will see a lot of Steeler fans in Maryland. Mm-hmm. But it did tamper it down. But I just was ready to start seeing other players around the league, and that's kind of how I approached it when I went to the games as well.
Right.
I didn't know the players on Baltimore.
And your family, you've been season ticket holders for how long now?
Since they started. We had once we were trying to get the team to get the promotion to show the league that the city wanted to, to support the fan base of the team. We put up money, and I put up around $250, and I had a down payment before we even had a team. So I was on and had season tickets from
the jump. What do you remember about your first time attending a Ravens game in person?
Old Stadium.
Mm-hmm. What stadium is this?
Old Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, where I think the Colts used to play, I'm sure, and the Orioles, I think. But it was an old stadium. It had a trial.
Yeah.
I mean, it was small hallways. But the fan base is an organic fan base. I mean, it is. Once you took that team and once they got it back, we were parking on the streets and alleys and people's backyards, paying for parking. That's just how much people wanted to go watch this team in their first year.
Whatever it took to get it done. Do you remember the first opponent that you seen them play in person? Did they win? Did they lose? What was that like?
I feel like the first opponent was the Oakland Raiders.
Okay.
But again, it's hard to remember other than offense not good. You had Marcia Broda. Okay. So, there was no Burt Jones or nothing. So you...
Mark Chaproda, that was the coach?
I believe he was our first coach coming over. It seemed like a safe pick to me.
Right.
He was established, the name. I think he was the old coach coach as well.
Okay.
And he came over. So the offense was kind of boring. You were getting like 13-7 games, 7-6 or something like that. It was very boring, just really hard-nosed, gritty football watching. Not the kind of stuff I would see, on today.
Okay. Well, let's fast forward to today. The offense is not traditional, right? You got one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the league. But this season, your team is 5-3. Now, it's not the worst record. It's decent. They're still number one in the division. They still have a chance to do great things. But I'm alarmed by this because this 5-3 is mediocre, subpar, underachieving. I already mentioned you got one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in perhaps NFL history. And in those 3 losses, the team was up in the fourth quarter of each of those games. And they choked it away. So this 5-3 record, in my opinion, is bad. What say you, Mr. Bowen?
Well, first of all, it's hard to win a football game in the league. If you're out there on the field and on ground level, you can see how crazy it is. But I think the 5-3, the problems we had are fixed. I believe that they've gotten control of it.
Fixed? How?
Well, I wouldn't say fixed. They've gotten control of it. They've stopped the bleeding because you have some of our running backs coming back. You're going to start seeing a more traditional, just grinded out ball control offense. And the things, hey, they were exploited weaknesses. They coach too. They work out too. They exploited some weaknesses. And I think a lot of the teams, they had adjustments better in the second half. And I think that's been going on for a while.
What do you think was the biggest weakness?
The biggest weakness is your edge. If you're not pressuring the quarterback, most quarterbacks, they can send out 4 wideouts, 4 receivers, and they're gonna. If you give them 4 or 5 seconds, they're gonna find someone open. It's a large field, so we're trying to and our tackling. And I think that the problem with the practice limitations, everybody's not tackling. It takes people a while to learn how to get good wrap ups during the season. I think it took a while, but overall, I'm okay with our team and our philosophy as long as we stay healthy.
The defense, you pointed out. Which leads me to my number one conspiracy theory of the podcast. Ozzie Newsome, longtime general manager of the Ravens who stepped down in 2018. He was actually a Hall of Fame tight end. This is the architect of some of the greatest defenses in NFL history. He stepped down in 2018 and the Ravens organization tried to sell us as if this was a group decision. I believe Ozzie Newsome was fired. And my evidence is the poor defenses that they've had over the years. Ozzie Newsome went and got Ray Lewis in the draft, Ed Reed in the draft, Chris McAllister in the draft, Terrell Suggs, ball so hard. Got all these players in the draft. And now these last couple of years, especially this year, the defense has been subpar. And they try to convince me that Ozzie Newsome is up there still helping out. No, he's somewhere in the office playing with paper clips. He doesn't have any power or any authority. So that's my number one conspiracy theory for the podcast. Ozzie Newsome was fired. And it's evident by this subpar defense that the Ravens are putting on the field. What say you, Mr. Bone?
Well, of course, everyone goes and looks back at the draft class. And they are always, even now in the city, is their comparison to how Ozzie did it and how DeCosta did it.
Right.
So, I mean, there was some issue about them, training DeCosta to coming up. So it's hard to say if that was the case, but, because of his age, he's been around. I saw him in the camp and stuff years and years ago when they first started. So I'm not sure if he was tired or not, but I do know that the jury is still out on these drafts between what he did and what they did.
For sure. Which one of these losses was most disappointing? The loss to the Bills, the loss to the Dolphins, or the loss to the New York Giants?
Well, the Bills.
Really?
Because the Bills, we always, we don't, Baltimore, they don't forget a slight. And when you have this Lamar thing, you got the comparison, you got like Josh Allen coming in. Right. So we want to beat Josh Allen.
Yeah.
We wanted to beat the Bills. So that one we took on the chin for Lamar because we know Lamar is, most people know, like forget the stats. He's entertaining. We watch him
Without question.
We just want he's entertainment, and I think that's the big deal in his contract is he knows he's entertaining, but they're trying to your stats, no Super Bowl, all this. Look, we don't. This might be generational. I don't know if you could repeat this.
For sure. 2019 MVP season, unanimous MVP season for your quarterback Lamar Jackson. What was that like for you? Because the Ravens' history at quarterback is a bunch of Trent Dilfers and Joe Flacco's, like statuesque quarterbacks. This guy was dynamic, and as you mentioned, entertaining. What was that like for you and your family, just sitting back watching one of the most dynamic quarterbacks, and he's wearing your team's jersey?
Wow. I mean, I remember one time I watched a game on Sunday, and I was like, hey, we got a quarterback, and it was Joe Flacco. And then now I'm watching again, and I'm saying, whoa, we got a quarterback, because I saw him in college. I couldn't understand why he wasn't drafted. And so...
why he wasn't drafted?
Why he wasn't drafted like so
higher?
Much higher. So... I
got it on good authority that you were a big fan of Lamar Jackson coming out of college. And I'm going to ask you why. Because that talent doesn't always translate to the NFL. You know, even though he was the Heisman Trophy winner, sometimes those guys flame out. Hell, the Ravens had one in Troy Smith, who won big-time college football, was a Heisman Trophy winner, but he didn't really have a great NFL career. What was it about Lamar in college that made you say, yo, this guy's going to be all right?
His confidence and he had very good control of his legs.
Okay.
Like, he knew where he was going. His movements were confident, and they were dynamic. So I saw the dynamics in his game and the confidence on how he used it. And I figured that can't probably change.
Right.
That's going to translate.
So you're like, we hit the lottery here, Lamar Jackson.
When my son woke me up and said, we got pick 32, I said, it better be Lamar.
That's cool. Ozzie Newsome's last draft that he ran too. And look, he got you guys a great quarterback. That MVP season, do you have a favorite moment from Lamar Jackson's run?
My favorites are always the flips in the end zone.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. They go, Josh Allen, I'm like, who's running 80 yards flipping in the end zone? Okay, scoreboard, all right?
Right.
So that it's got to be the flips. The running around in the backfield, that's something that looks like he's been doing since he was 6 years old.
Yeah.
So it's just instinctive. I'm like ducking down and, going into people's arms and, that's just instinctive. But the flips and the runs, because I want him to finish it, take it, from a quarterback perspective. So I just think that's what sets the guy out. I mean, there's car wrecks all over there. He's running around like he's still 6 years old and having fun and the confidence. I don't see, anything. I like his snaps. I mean, he catches balls out of the shotgun. I mean, just like people flying by. I mean, it's just pretty like a new look. Just interesting that you can do it without any fumbles, because I think early in his career he was dropping a lot and he got better with his ball security.
The contract, Mr. Bowen. You just sat here and talked about how dynamic he is. I know that city, that community is excited about this player, unanimous MVP, but the Ravens have yet to pay him. And I won't put it all on the Ravens. Both parties, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, have not come to an agreement. Why? Who's most responsible for this? How do you feel about this?
I'm gonna say a push on this. I mean, you're asking someone to put $280 in escrow. I mean, so, but again, he turns the city on, lights on when he shows. Everyone's watching Lamar. I mean, he's the show. Like, not even league-wise. Steeler fans, they
yeah, he's the show.
He's the show.
So I got to put it in the organization. You got to secure this talent.
I'm securing the talent because this is, like I said, generational. You're not, what quarterback you're going to get over here that's going to do that. But that being said, the escrow part is the one that gets me. But other than that, you got to pay the guy. That's his value. I mean, to me.
I'll say this though, Mr. Bowen. You don't pay players for past performance. That MVP season, we got that for the low. We got that on the rookie deal. What he's doing now, we got that. So from an organization perspective, I can understand that situation too. And for me, this is one of those rare instances where I think, like, I could agree with all parties. Lamar wants his money, his Deshaun Watson type money. Even though that contract is an anomaly, he deserves it because I believe he's better than Deshaun Watson. But on the Ravens side, he's a high risk. We don't have to pay him right now. Why? So I get the stalemate.
Are you saying the high risk is injury?
Without question.
Well, I mean, most of the injuries, he got one injury. It was in the pocket. He knows how to take a hit, and already the statistics on NFL careers are not that long anyway. Mm. So you got like the high risk, and he's got, I can't do this forever. Right. So this is just lightning in the bottle right now.
But what's my if I'm the Ravens, what's my motivation to pay him if he's showing up every week to play?
People watch, buy, go to his games. So if I'm the owner, that's your entertainment. You can look at it as risk or whatever. He's saying right now, that's what's going on the field. That's what's on the TVs. That's what's on the radios.
But he's showing up, and I have yet to pay him, so we're cool. And the next 2 years, we could franchise tag him. I don't have to give him a long-term guaranteed deal, especially somebody that hasn't gotten it done in the playoffs.
Well, if he goes that way, it was that 2 years maybe, possibly he
right.
could do that. It'd be insulting, but 2 years franchise, $45 million a year. I mean, Lamar could probably look at it. If that played out, he probably would get, that's $90 million in 3 years almost, right. 23 years. He's probably getting what he asked for, but there's still the risk of injury. Mm-hmm. So if they paid him that much money over 3-4 years, I mean, what's the 280? He's almost getting it. It's just not guaranteed.
For sure. And I thought that was the route Lamar Jackson was taking. Like, I'm just going to bet on myself. I'm going to ball out. I'm going to take the franchise tag, ball out. And ultimately, I'll get my money in the end. But the other day, I forget what was the last game they played, but he held up that sign that a fan had that says something towards the effect, pay Lamar Jackson. To me, that felt like frustration.
No doubt. Everyone can feel it. It's like the elephant in the room. Mm-hmm. You can tell, even if it's anyone, it's like, there's a pride thing too. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a respect thing too. Sure. So someone's going to come back after this is over and drop a contract like that. And then he's going to be like, I accepted less. So I kind of get what he's doing. This is going to be in your mind. Mm-hmm. It's going to be in your mind. You're balling out, giving everything you got, despite having that in the background of your head. Mm-hmm. And I admire him for that.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw Skip Bayless, who's on Fox Sports 1, who was actually a guest on the show. He said that some of his sources are saying that Lamar Jackson, he's not questioning his focus on the field, but in the meetings, he's kind of not engaged as much as he used to be. Showing up a little bit late every now and again, something he would have never done in the past. So it feels like maybe this may be a little bit frustrating to him because, as you mentioned, it's about respect. Like, why doesn't my organization want to compensate me for the work that I'm doing? What do you think about him not having a traditional agent, taking those meetings by himself, him and Eric DaCosta face to face?
Obviously, it's a groundbreaking trend. Mm-hmm. Probably not the best financially.
Why not?
I'm not sure. I'm not in that business, but I'm just saying that they seem to work out with agents. I mean, sometimes agents do give you some good deals. But, hey, he wants to go it alone, groundbreaking. I like it. Why do you need an agent anyway? I don't even know. Right. Why do you need an agent? To tell? I mean, other than they don't tell you the bad things, the hurtful things they say about you, right. That you don't go to meetings very attentively. Yeah. I mean, so why? That's the only reason I can think of. Because does Oprah not sit in on her agent meetings? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Do stars sit on there? Do they just go out and give me a deal and bring it back? Or do they go into a boardroom and break it down with them? Why can't they meet face to face? Why do you need an agent?
Groundbreaking indeed. And I think sometimes they talk too much about the fact that he doesn't have an agent. You know, he's a man. He knows what he wants.
That's an excuse to do this.
Excuse indeed. And, just because it's been done a certain way forever doesn't mean that's the right way. In fact, the Ravens just got a new linebacker to trade, Roquan Smith.
Yes.
He doesn't have an agent either.
Yes, I heard that.
So y'all got two free-spirited black men in that locker. Let's see
Yeah, so how are you going to be not down with that? I mean, go do what you do, young fella.
Lamar Jackson is very interesting because he doesn't have a sneaker deal either.
No commercial. Yep.
He seems to be just blazing his own trail. And I'm just as interested about his business dealings as what I see on the field. Mr. Bone, I mentioned earlier, Lamar Jackson has kind of fell short in the playoffs.
Yes.
His very first year, that 2008, at one point in the fourth quarter against the Chargers, he had 25 passing yards. The year after that, he had that dynamic MVP season. The Ravens got ran over by Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans. Last year, they lost to the Bills after some late turnovers. He hasn't seemed to be able to bring that regular season magic to the playoffs, my humble estimation. What say you?
It's the finish. It's the finish. He's right there. He sees all those plays. They're all in front of him. I can see he reads them. Mm-hmm. It's just that one little inexperience or just it's so good I screwed it up. Uh-huh. The guy's wide open or something. It's just the finish, and I think if he does that, now we got number 79 on the left side. He can relax a little bit more. You're going to see more of that, even without Bateman.
But we've seen some of those turnovers this year in these losses. Late turnover against the Bills again in the regular season this year. Late turnover against the Giants. When are we going to see him rectify this? Let me ask you this. How has Lamar Jackson improved from his unanimous MVP season?
He got stronger. His arc on his ball is getting more direct, more slimmer A to B. I feel like he's pretty confident. I saw him for the first time yelling at alignment, but in publicly. But it is all about the results.
Yes, sir.
And it's all about the fourth quarter. But I really would like them to open up the offense a little better. Just with this talent, I hate when we play teams with four wides and they're doing crossing patterns on me. I'm trying to make my linebackers just block for the guy. I feel pretty confident about the season. I think it's going to – I don't know if you can stop this talent other than injury.
Open it up some more. What does that look like? More passing?
More active plays. I need more movement. It's enough to say I'm going to send three out and then just make Lamar break down the play. But just I don't want to know. When Lamar first came, I didn't know what he was doing other than – but now you're kind of getting to a rhythm. And I think that late in the games, they do adjustments on our rhythm. And I think but basically, I just think Lamar needs to make those plays. He needs to make the plays.
He needs to make
that he can do.
For sure.
Because I see them in front of him.
For sure. But it's interesting you say you would like to see the offense open up some more. I would have the same criticism, right? I feel like at times the offense is impotent. They're being safe. They doing these little college half handoff. What do they call it? Quarterback read? Run pass option.
Yeah, run pass option.
Like it's Tommy Frazier and the Nebraska Cornhuskers from the 90s. And my frustration is directed towards the head coach. John Harbaugh. I call John Harbaugh an MWB. What's that? A mediocre white boy. You know what I'm saying? He's not an offensive mind. He's not a defensive guru. He came up in special teams. Okay? Nothing about him exudes leadership. I think he should have been gone years ago. But guys like this get a pass because they win a Super Bowl. They get this lifetime pass. To be frank, the Super Bowl is not that important. Somebody wins it every year. You want to talk about the great ones? They have multiple. He's not one of those guys, right? And the offense has always had issues, and he's fired multiple offensive coordinators. When do we start to look at Mr. Harbaugh? Who did he fire? Cam Cameron. He fired Mark Trestman. Marty Mornhinweg didn't return. When do we start to look at Mr. Harbaugh? Otis Bowen, senior season ticket holder. What do you think of your head coach?
He also fired, I think it was your former head coach for the Giants.
Jim Fossil.
Yep, he fired Jim Fossil as well. I don't know, because there's a debate about sometimes coaches feel a little insecure about the mind that they bring in to the area. But the creativity has been there, and I think it's because they have so many other facets of the game that are maybe good. Mm-hmm. Their special teams keep them in the game. Their running game keeps them in the game, and I think they try and keep it basic. It may be a traditional thing to where they're okay 13-7 wins, but it puts a lot of pressure. And then late in the fourth quarter, you've played conservative in a passing league, and now you're down by 7, even though you played a great game. And now you need Lamar.
Now you need Lamar to bail you out. Play conservative throughout the game, and I believe that's why you see him going on 4th down many different times, because he knows the offense is much better, but they played conservative. So now he's going to try to go on 4th down to make up for his conservative play calling before. And what game was that? Was that against the Bills when he went on 4th down?
Well, he's been losing on 4th down a lot, so I lost point. But I think that was on the Bills. And he also,
tie game.
Yeah.
Should have went for the field goal when he has the best field goal kicker possibly in NFL history. Mr. Bone, what's it like in the house when you're watching these moments play out?
Well, at first, when Lamar first came on the scene, we was just putting points, okay? So now we was like, oh, this is the new thing, but now we know it's back to nail biter. Our Sunday's going to be stressful. We should be happy at the end of the game. Right. So, I mean, it's just something we've accepted. Like I say, back in the day, 13 ugly football game with that one guy that brings the fun in it. Otherwise, you got the regular Ravens. If you're keeping the coach, you keeping your style, you're going to get rid of him. He knows that. Mm-hmm. He's the entertainment. He's the one that makes the games fun. Yes. We like winning, but he makes them fun.
And the reason I put it on Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson.
You on this one.
For sure. Every Sunday I'm watching, I'm frustrated. I'm yelling and screaming. Lamar Jackson has proven what he is capable of. Now, the offensive coordinator, if you go back to when Colin Kaepernick was dominating this league, when we thought he was the new prototype of what quarterbacks were going to be, the ability to pass, the ability to run, his offensive coordinator was Greg Roman, the same guy that is calling the shots from the offensive end for the Ravens right now. So even Greg Roman is proven too. The one person that has presided over an impotent offense for damn near a decade now is Mr. Harbaugh. And in 2018, there was rumors that they were going to move past him after the season. And I asked Peter King about that. He said he was aware of those same rumors, but it never materialized. And I think because 2018, Lamar Jackson came on late in the season, and the ownership said, wait, let's just stay pat. And that's how Harbaugh ends up in that position. Mediocre. It's like driving with the parking brake up.
Well, I mean, there was this debate. When Harbaugh was first considered being hired, they wanted the offensive guru from Dallas. Mm-hmm. So I do believe that the Super Bowl win helped him. It gave him some more lives. Mm-hmm. But it always is a kind of a thing that, to see a changeover in coaching. It's everybody kind of thinks about it, but it's so established in our minds that Harbaugh, and he does a lot of psychology stuff and good talking with the media. Right. He's got the local media down and communications. They got good publicity. Good publicity. So he looks the part. He looks the part.
He makes people comfortable.
He makes people comfortable. All right, so you're making me think about it. I can tell you've given it a lot of thought. We just go for wins and losses.
MWB, mediocre white boy. Mr. Bowen, 2 Super Bowl championships in the Ravens' history. Walk me through them. Do you have a favorite moment? Is either one more special than the next? Talk to me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the play.
The play? Which one is this?
The play. Second playoff game.
Which championship run?
Toughest team, 2000.
2000. Okay.
This made our team.
Go for
this
it.
This made our franchise. 2 toughest teams in the NFL, in the AFC, in the NFL, I would say, played a playoff game in Tennessee. Eddie George and Ray Lewis.
Okay.
And Steve McNair throws pass to Eddie George, and I think the accumulation of all those years of getting lit up got in the back of his mind, and just for 1 second, he looked over, and the ball hit his shoulder, and Ray took that, ran it to the house. I says, we win in the Super Bowl.
Yeah?
That changed, to me, that's the biggest play in the history of the Ravens. When he intercepted that from the drop-down pass to, because we were just, we won 5 games with no touchdowns that year.
That's how heavy and stout that defense was.
Yes. And those hits, I mean, the AFC North, I've seen many of players, running backs, come up with some slight injuries around the third quarter of games. I'm working out the knee, and I follow the injury reports the following weeks to see what running backs did not play the following week after playing that 2000 Ravens team.
Because they put a hurting on people.
Put a hurting on them, and I think Eddie George saw that, and that play changed our whole season. We went to Oakland, beat up Gannon, came to New York, which I lost a couple friends.
They beat the Giants that year in the Super Bowl. But hold on, this play. So Steve McNair, that was my guy, Steve McNair.
Man.
He would have ended up being a Raven later on in his career too. But Steve McNair throws a pass to Eddie George, and Ray Lewis snatches and goes the other way for 6 points.
It's just a simple check down. It was late in the game. It was just a simple check down. It's late in the game, and he threw a check down to Eddie, and they had some battles, man. Eddie was a big guy, man. He was north and south runner. Mm-hmm. And I just think after a while, that muscle memory hit, and the 52 coming in caught him just for a second. And when he did it, he bobbled it a little, and Ray just said, "Give me that." Took it in. The rest is history. That's how we got started. And I think a lot of people, just because of the hard nose, it's an organic organization, and they win ugly, and people don't like it. So it's an easy team to root against. It's a very easy team to root against. First
Super Bowl 4 years after the team was established. What was that fan experience like? You remember when you watched that game?
The Super Bowl?
Yes, that first Super Bowl.
Man, how was I thinking? I kind of felt that we were gonna win that game. I mean, they sent them off. They had a bus ride to the airport, and helicopters following us like it's a car chase. Yeah. And so I kind of felt pretty strong that we had the best team. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really that concerned. And then when we, started running up stuff, and I knew we had the best special teams too. Mm-hmm. We scored a touchdown, I believe, on special teams. So I felt pretty confident because we had beat everybody that was our foes. We beat Tennessee. We went to Oakland. We had 2 road games to get there. So that was the strongest team I've seen us have. We had bookends. You had your number 1 and number 2 first draft picks ever in the franchise history on that team.
Who's that?
Jonathan Ogden, number 1.
Yeah.
I believe 4th overall, and Ray Lewis. That's Ogden. That's your GM you were talking about.
Ozzie Newsome.
Yes. Crushed it.
And this is why I say I've been
impressions.
I've been a fan of the Ravens over the years. That defense, you said they won 5 games without scoring a touchdown. Can you imagine the amount of pressure that is going into every game? Like, yo, we got to perform because our offense is not giving us much. And they did it.
With 40-yard kicks.
Ray Lewis.
Squirrel dance.
Ray Lewis. I'm going to tell you, I was a youngster. We were 96. I am 11. 2000, I'm 14-ish. The first time I ever heard of Ray Lewis is when he got in trouble. The year prior to the Super Bowl, he got in trouble. There was an incident. People died. He ended up pleading guilty to obstruction of justice, something like that. We could discuss that later. But that's the first time I heard of him, and the year after, of course, all the eyes were on him, and he balled out.
Yes.
When did you first realize Ray Lewis was going to be a franchise change in play?
I would say, well, I used to work training camp, so I saw that guy in training camp. I was like, this guy is a monster.
You used to work there?
Yeah, I did. I knew someone that does the stadium security, and I worked on the field. So the first year I got like an inside view of how it was. So I saw how good he was, and I saw his speed, and I saw he could run. When I saw that he could run sideline to sideline as a middle linebacker with bad intent, I was like, that's unique. And putting out running backs, he was doing that. Linemen weren't putting those guys out the following week. That was Ray Lewis and those guys. Come through the hole if you like. So when I saw that, I just said, I didn't think about injury and anything. He looked like a robot. He looked like he could do this forever. Sideline to sideline. If you come out that backfield, that guy's coming to get you. So when I saw that, I was like, that's just intense.
Yeah.
I didn't know how great he would be that. I just knew that we had a linebacker.
I remember watching that Super Bowl, as you said, they beat up on my New York Giants. But every time or everywhere the ball was, Ray Lewis was there. Whether it was down the field, maybe 20 yards, he would be in the camera shot. I'm like, yo, how is this linebacker everywhere? If it was a stopped run in the backfield, he was always in the middle. And I thought that was rather impressive. What did you think about him getting in that trouble? That's something that comes up every now and again. People outside of Baltimore, have their opinions like, yo, why was he caught up in that? Some people still hint that maybe he was involved. Maybe he's a murderer. What do you think about that situation? For the record, his suit that he wore that night has never been recovered. Are those the actions of an innocent man? Like, I was reading up on it. I don't know what to think. I got dizzy, but that is rather peculiar.
Okay, first of all, very lucky. He got very lucky. And the case went forward very quickly. So he just got lucky. But I just feel, he was coming into his own. He was down there in a fur coat, hanging out, partying with his bad people. Partying with people that was down. That was, wanted to show him something, I kind of feel like. And I think that the people he were around was trying to be protectors and trying to, do some things. And they did something that happens a lot in street fights. The guy has a knife, and you think you have a fist. And I think they had a fight. Now, I think Ray got something with that suit.
Yeah.
So every opposing fan that comes up to me and wants to talk smack, they go, "Where that white suit at?"
Yeah.
So we all know about the white suit. I would like to know where the white suit
is. Those are not the actions of an innocent man. But I think it's convenient that we say like those guys wanted to protect the athlete. We assume that because he was the athlete. We don't know if Ray encouraged them to go over there. We don't know if Ray was in the middle of that. Because the story is maybe there was blood on that suit and that's why it's disappeared.
That's why I say lucky.
Very lucky, man.
Lucky.
Very lucky.
I don't know what happened. I used to joke and say, well, look, I don't care if he's on as long as he get on work release on Sunday, okay? Yeah. So, whatever you need to do, man.
Yeah. Ray Lewis, he was my guy when he was playing, but since his playing days, I don't know, man. He got fired by ESPN. He got fired by Fox Sports One. Like, he was supposed to be this great motivational speaker. Like, now the stuff just sounds hollow at times. He spoke out against Colin Kaepernick. I don't really know what to think of this guy.
Everyone gets old, okay? So that just like a coach or anything, it gets old. And you got like a new generation of people, the speech you gave back then, maybe not needed
right
now. So, and you still giving the same speech. You haven't innovated it. What's your platform and telling people? What are you creating with those same thoughts that you have? So I just think it just got old. We just moved on, man. I mean, he had his time. It was influential. It was needed. He helped to put Baltimore football on the map. I mean,
for sure.
I mean, especially you took the team, gave it to Jacksonville. What's Jacksonville doing? Not that this Jacksonville.
Who's the better Raven, Ray Lewis or Ed Reed? It's like picking between your children, huh?
All right, Ray Lewis. Well, influential. Ray Lewis. He was in the trenches. I mean, we only got no concussion protocol. I mean, that's football. Like, I'm glad I did not play that game. But Ed Reed coming out, man, this guy's blocking punts for touchdowns, interception, no stick 'em, just scoring points. That's dynamic, like Lamar Jackson. That went on for about 2 or 3 years, about a couple years before they realized, okay, we need to address this. But I would say, talent-wise, both. Influential-wise, I mean, Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis.
Talent-wise, just 20 is just unbelievable.
Ray Lewis, I think he is the better Raven. He probably gets top billing because of his talking points, more boisterous. But if we say better player, I'm going with 20.
Yeah, because you got to remember, Ray Lewis, we had some Sam Adams, I believe it was, Saragusa. We had the two ends, McCrary. These are guys coming out of college. He had a good, so they took up space up front. So all he had was the A gap, B gaps, so they, kept big linemen off of him. So he made dynamic plays. So I'm not taking that away, obviously. Right. I'm just saying it was set up. You say, how is he on all the films?
Yeah.
It's because they set that up. He's there waiting for the end. So,
Another reason I get a nod to Ed Reed, I think he might be the greatest safety ever.
Oh, I have that debate with my Steeler fan all the time. He's saying Polamalu. I'm saying, dude, look at the stats. Look at the stats. But the guy scores. Yeah. Polamalu, he comes up, he tackles. Ed Reed is to the house.
I wasn't even going to bring up Polamalu. I was talking about maybe Ronnie Lott. What do you say there?
Ronnie Lott, still no concussion protocol days. Early in my football viewing career, but I would just say just a hard nose. I mean, just old school. I couldn't imagine. Probably had the worst cleats back then. Yeah. Just hitting. They had such a good team, though. Yeah.
Ray Lewis was great, but I don't think he's the best middle linebacker. I don't think he's better than Lawrence Taylor.
No.
No?
Wait. That's a good.
Lawrence Taylor, New York Giants.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with it. You got me on that one. All right.
Got you.
Yeah, I have to go LT. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
No doubt, man. No one tells you watch. I'm gonna be in your face in just a second, and does that. So he calling this shot like a baseball player, man. So I give him that. But would you put him second?
Yeah, he got second.
All right. So by a lot.
Nah, he's close. He's close. Ray Lewis a beast. If I'm being unbiased, I'm taking out all the things I said about his incident and the things he said about Kaepernick stuff.
All right, so Ray, if you heard that, I agree. LT's first, but you right there.
Right there. If you show up to a Ravens game, what jersey are you wearing? Just one jersey.
I'm not a big swag person. I ain't gonna lie. Probably like I was just talking to that with my wife about how I out of all these years I've been going to games, I've probably worn a jersey like 5 times. But I would say, Ed
Reed.
Ed Reed. You talking, that's just legit. Like you can't anywhere. Yeah. He cool. He's smoking cigars.
With his hat on.
He cool on and off the field. So it's just Ed Reed. That's one you can represent across the board. Men, women, children.
How you guys feeling about Ray Rice down there? Ray Rice, Super Bowl champion.
I'm going to take a sip for that.
Yeah, go for it. He was a force in the backfield for years. And then, unfortunately got caught up in that domestic violence incident where, video came out, hotel lobby. He hit his then fiance who became his wife. And that was kind of the end of his run. Do you remember the first time you saw the video?
Yes, I saw it. He had a moment of possible redemption. That passed. But what he did was not good. I mean, he spit on her. I don't know if people noticed that. They think about the punch. But while she was walking to the elevator, she walked by him, and I saw him spit on her.
Yikes.
And then they went to the elevator. So I think something happened. To me, it didn't seem like. But then when he that moment of redemption, like, oh man, I don't know what I did, but no, he drags her out like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah.
That just put the icing on the cake. Yeah, it's a disregard.
Mm-hmm.
I feel something happened because I don't feel that's probably something that goes on. I don't know if that. I don't know. I just didn't feel like that's something that might go on. Like that's one bad night. But his disregard just couldn't be fixed. Just couldn't be fixed. He was having his best. He was about to blow up that year too. Just before all that blew up that happened early in the season. But I saw his preseason games. He was on money. I think he was coming back from an injury. But I just don't think you can. I can't. The spit and the throwing his wife out of an elevator like a bag of potatoes, just
Too much for you.
too much.
So you were okay with him that being the end?
There's nothing I could do. How are you gonna fix that? It was a flow all over the state, even amongst the fans, that can't be fixed.
Now, what do you think about his girl going into the commissioner's office with him and saying, listen, this was an ugly situation, but don't throw the book at my husband or my fiance. Like, we're going to get through this, but please allow him to continue his football career.
And earn a living
Yes.
for his family. So I don't necessarily agree with the total ban, blackballing, but I understand what happened. I mean, we don't make up the rules in society, or whether they're good or bad. So I don't agree with banning someone for the profession. I mean, that's pretty extreme, but you got caught on video doing something really,
But I think
how you gonna fix that with the female fan base?
it's convenient how they pick
And
and
the
choose when they want to listen to the spouse, the victim. They ignored her and dismissed her. Oh, she's just a battered woman. She doesn't know anything. But if she was willing to go on a tour and tear down a man and talk to Barbara Walters and Diane Sawyer and tear this brother down, they would have gave her every platform in the world. To me, it wasn't really about domestic violence. It was about tearing down a brother. Because she went in the office and said, listen, this is ugly, but we're going to fix this.
I believe that whole situation was exploited. If you go in that to that analysis, that it was in its infancy on that's how y'all really do things in the NFL. That's what the commissioner is doing. That's when all that stuff started coming out, the uneven types of punishments and stuff. So I do believe that whole situation was poorly handled. Like, there's this videotape, and not just poorly handled, the internal investigation. So I don't agree with any of the stuff that's going on in the NFL office.
But it's interesting that you say that you think he was about to have a big year.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was easy to get rid of him because he was slowing down. He could no longer hit the hole like he once was. And they used him as an example. It wasn't a stand against domestic violence because if you look at the NFL right now, Joe Mixon has a video of hitting a woman. Kareem Hunt has a video of hitting a woman. And even at the Ray Lewis time, there was pictures of Adrian Peterson's son with whelps after him beating him, but they get to continue their career because they're still a force. I felt Ray Rice was a little bit older, and he was easily discarded at that time. That's what that was about, in my humble estimation.
You mean from the league's perspective or from the Ravens' perspective?
From the Ravens' perspective, I think there was
from the Ravens' perspective. I don't find that to be. I just think that Brashadi, the owner, just looked. I mean, it was pretty over. Look, I could even go and say some of the pros and the debate, persuasive debate that I'm saying about Ray Lewis. I mean, Ray Rice, and I'll be in the bar and they'll be like all over me.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? No. I'm like, yeah, but no. So it was universal around the state of Maryland. So it may have been like his fan base. The Ravens fan base, that he could have made that decision. But I saw him in preseason. He looked great. I was excited to see him. I think he came back from an injury or something. But he looked great. He has his cuts. He was low. I mean, he was angled. So I assumed he was about to blow up to the old Ray Rice. But the video and, when you got your female, because they got a good female fan base there.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ravens, if you pan into a Ravens stadium audience, you're going to see a diverse group of people, black, white, young. It's a big melting pot. And not like New York City in terms of melting pot, but just, when you look into a fan base of an NFL team, you can see a lot of, generally the same income people. But you see in the Ravens, you see all kinds of people in their fan base. So I just think it was just the timing, the bad way they handled it, the horrible way they handled it. No rules. What are the rules in the NFL? What's the penalty for anything?
Right.
So it's all like subjective. So I just think it was the fan base that fueled that decision.
Gotcha.
Both nationally and there, because there were people like, no. But the bag of potatoes, that just killed it.
That was it.
That was it, man.
Now that you mention that
bag of potatoes, man. If you wanted anything else, come on, you can't throw. Like that's your moment. Oh my God, what have I done? No, dang, people messing up my reputation. I mean, that's just disregard. That just killed it.
That's crazy.
So that's always got to be the way. You throw your wife out like a bag of potatoes.
Wow. I read somewhere that recently he was at a ceremony for one of his former teammates. I think Ring of Honor for maybe Jimmy Smith or somebody.
Oh, he's respected. In terms of people still like him. They know what he was before that moment. But at that time, there's a, punishment in terms of, because it is entertainment. People have to like you. Right. There is a time that it didn't work. But now, I don't understand. I like the guy. I don't know. I can't wear a Ray Rice jersey.
Can't wear it.
I can't wear it.
Yikes.
If you want to,
that's the real deal.
Yeah.
Real deal. You gave us a moment from that first Super Bowl run. Anything stand out in the 2012 run?
The F-bomb.
What F-bomb?
The F-bomb. I named that. The F-bomb is when we're losing and we know we got a squad and it's late and we somehow have this moment to where Flacco throws, about to be sacked, and he's got a strong arm, probably like 50, 55 yards, throws it, and for some reason, all they had to do was just stay. The game's over. It's only like a few seconds. They mess up, and the guy gets behind him, and Jacoby Jones catches this bomb, and he's doing that Ray Lewis thing again. And I see in the stands, they saying, what the? And I call it the F-bomb.
Who did they play against?
The Broncos.
And this is in Denver.
Yep.
And the fans are pissed off.
After that play, because they just blew it. I mean, that's our Super Bowl. That's how we got to the Super Bowl.
But that play against the Broncos,
The F-bomb.
that was kind of miraculous.
Miracle. I'm convinced it's over. Mm-hmm. And then that happens. I'm like, how did that happen?
All the Broncos defense had to do was keep the Ravens in front of them. The clock was going to run out, and they were going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would put that right beneath the Ray Lewis, give me that play.
Yeah.
That's my top two plays of the Ravens franchise, 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. Ray Lewis and the F-bomb.
And I say that's why I've cheered for the Ravens. I feel like they've had an identity. They've had a toughness to them that has stayed the course, that have been passed down from Ray Lewis to Ed Reed to Royal Suggs, Busselhart, and I feel that is now being lost. Especially with the addition of Roquan Smith. Like, he's the best tackler in the league, but he's not a Raven. He's not made up of that same DNA. I remember there was a skit on ESPN, not a skit, but a segment. Ray Lewis was showing Ed Reed how to prepare. This is how you be a great player. It's not just about your talents. It's film watching. I don't know who's passing that down anymore. It's lost. What was the brother's name? C.J. Mosley came to the Jets. T. Suggs is retired. It's lost. Last year you acquire Marcus Peters. The Ravens never did it with flashy free agents and and trades. It was homegrown talent. And I feel that's being lost.
Well, again, if you win games, you're going to have ladder picks. Mm-hmm. So maybe back then, those 8-9, 9-7, seasons got you some picks, and we did get 2 Hall of Famers in one draft in your first ever draft. I mean, how can you repeat that?
You can repeat that, and I don't want to beat this dead horse. Ozzie, It's not just a skill, but there's a mental makeup.
They was grooming them, Costa. I think they was grooming them, like back to your say, I think they was grooming them, and it was the train that left the station. And, probably, the Ozzie thing. But I don't know, the tradition nowadays, I mean, if people are friends with each other. I mean, it's not, I'm sure Ray Lewis wasn't hanging out with Eddie George in the off season. But now everyone's connected with each other. You're friends with them. They trade jerseys and stuff after every game. It's hard to do that tradition over. And again, that was the past time now. Now you got to get people's excitement to even go to the games. I mean, they'll go to the games, but now we got man caves and stuff. So it can get watered down with all the other activity now that people do so, and then trickles down to the athletes. And now your contracts, oh my goodness, one contract, that's a life. So you can slow it down as well. So I don't know if you're going to be able to turn that over to the younger guys. I mean, I just don't really know how you do it. But in terms of being a Raven with our new linebacker, sign him. He's going to be a Raven. Sign him.
How do y'all feel about Joe Flacco down there?
Joe Flacco, like I said, went to work Monday. I says, we got a quarterback. It was Joe Flacco, the guy who's old school, standing in the pocket. I mean, it was going slightly leaning, with Michael Vick. It was, we were getting more mobile quarterbacks, but he was like, old school, I'll do it. I'm not scared. Right. And I just loved his toughness, tough as nails. Actually had speed when he first came out. Joe Flacco is loved. Joe Flacco is loved in Baltimore. And the comparison, you'll have to wait until Lamar's done to have a real comparison on what quarterback did what for our organization and what.
With Joe Flacco, magical run, 2012, big arm, get you to the Super Bowl, gets paid. There's, again, casual observer, there's not much Joe Flacco before or after the Super Bowl. Like, how do you explain that?
Well, who wants to come play quarterback in Baltimore before Joe Flacco? I mean, we had no quarterbacks. We had Dilford, which, we went to Elvis Gerback because we thought he wasn't good enough. But we even had John Elway refused to come here. So quarterbacks did not want to come to Baltimore. So that I get that wasn't an exciting city. Marcia Broda, I don't know if you call that, but John Elway, we had the pick, and he says he's not coming here. I told him ahead of time.
John Elway?
Yeah, I think that was John Elway, wasn't it?
No, not Elway.
Wasn't Elway?
Maybe Manning or one of those. No.
Wait, it was. I think I am wrong on that. It was one of those quarterbacks that would not come here. But I just don't think that it was their style. It was always defense, and especially after you got Ray Lewis. Then you have our division, the AFC North. I mean, we got to stop the run. All their games, this wasn't a passing league. So he just loaded up on defensive players. I mean, we had a great run. Their defenses were great. So eventually I knew we had to revamp. We had to change over to get. They didn't do it with Flacco. I mean, they just did it with a combination. Again, I think all three facets. Special teams really helps our team.
But how could he show that greatness in that championship run and then just be mediocre outside of that?
I tell you why. I might tell my friend. Freaking Steelers. What's the guy's name? The linebacker? Palomalo. The Steelers stopped our Super Bowl. Usually, if you go from Flacco after that Super Bowl win, normally the best teams out of the AFC were either us or the Steelers. You both can't go. So we were getting eliminated in key games by the Steelers. They stopped some, just like the Knicks and the Bulls, or something, or Detroit and the Bulls. Okay. Kept getting stopped, and I think I'm just happy when James Harrison retired. I mean, I just don't want to see that guy. And we had to play against him before, I say, concussion protocol. So, I just think it was, and they didn't make the plays again, like as you're saying now. The plays are there. Some people will blame it on the coach. Billick, when he was here, he says, you got to make some plays. Okay, you got to make the play. So when I see Lamar with the plays set up, I can see him. I'm up in the stands. I can see the plays develop. And I can see it even at home. I can see that he's reading. But for some reason, some little glitch, a little behind, a little tip pass. And I think we're just getting beat because I think we had good championship teams. I will agree with you. We should have more titles. Definitely. With Joe, and he dropped the ball. Oh my goodness!
But it's cool because I thought he was just like a bum. But you said there was tough battles against the Steelers.
We should have gone back to back. The guy dropped the ball in the end zone. What was that guy's name? He had the DUI, I think, in Cleveland. Wide receiver. It hit him, and then New England guy. He thought he relaxed. We were going to the Super Bowl. And then Condiff missed the kick. Otherwise, we'd probably gone back to back.
I was going to ask you, what are some of your biggest disappointments as a Ravens fans? And I'm sure that Billy Cundiff kick is on that list.
Cundiff kick.
2012 against the Patriots with a chance to tie the game, to go into overtime in the AFC Championship game, and he missed it.
That's probably the biggest.
You can't even.
I don't know if I have to think that much further than that one. I mean, that was the one that I think that was a back-to-back season. Was that 2013 or something?
I think it was the year before the Super Bowl because I remember Ray Lewis gave a speech afterwards. It's like, this is not the end of our season. I think that was so. It was like he kind of.
We had a squad. We had a squad. Mm-hmm. I think every year we have a squad. Now, somehow here's the Ravens philosophy: we will draft athletes and make them football players.
Nice.
And that's how they do it in the draft. They go and try and get people, that they can sneak around in a later round, and and try and make them athletes. And sometimes it fails. It just they're trying to make Hamilton our safety. He's a good athlete. They want to make him Ed Reed. And the jury's still out right now. His playing time is being demoted slightly. So their philosophy in their draft, I could pretty much say, is they draft the best athletes and they try and make them football players.
Gotcha. I told you over the years I found myself rooting for the Ravens many times, and it's been due in large part to their personnel. And one guy you guys had for a short amount of time, Steve Smith.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite NFL players ever. He was a wide receiver who played for a long time for the Carolina Panthers, and then he
went
played
to the University of Utah.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Played for the Utes.
The Utes.
Yeah.
And then he would go on to the Ravens late in his career.
He may have played under the guy for Ohio State. Was he there? No. I think before he went to Ohio State, he coached at Utah. But, yeah, Steve Smith, man, tough guy.
Tough guy, Mr. Bowen.
Man.
When the Ravens when the Panthers let him go, reporters asked him about the possibility of playing against the Panthers. And he said, if that happens, get your goggles because there's going to be blood and guts everywhere.
I know.
I love that. Most athletes try to downplay playing.
Wide receivers are not going to be going around saying that.
Not at all. And most people try to downplay playing their former team like, oh, it's just another game. He lets you know that's going to be personal. And sure enough, he signed with the Ravens. They end up playing the Panthers. And what did he do? 7 catches, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns. I remember watching that game like, yo, I wonder what he going to do. And he backed it up. That's back in 2014, I believe. That dude was tough.
Yeah, I was just kept hoping, like, okay, please don't do something too obnoxious on TV, But I knew it was going to be crazy. But, I mean, like you said, a wide receiver telling you it's going to be blood and guts. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not a linebacker. That's just a wide receiver. That still at the time goes across the middle.
Big time.
He was across the middle or go routes.
Big time. Big time. Favorite tight end? Dennis Pitta, Todd Heap, Mark Andrews.
Okay, Heap was catching brain damage passes from the quarterbacks. The toughest one, Heap.
Todd Heap.
My favorite is Andrews. The guy can catch. He's tough. Andrews is probably our best tight end to play here. Besides, let me get Shannon Sharp. Like Shannon Sharp played a role in that. You remember he was on the 2000 team.
For sure.
He's the one that they threw an out pass to, I think Jamal Lewis. Bounced off of Jamal Lewis's shoulder. Shannon Sharp took that for like 60 yards.
Wow.
Shannon Sharp got a ring here.
He sure does. He sure does. Mark Andrews, I think he's just the guy that got the money. Todd Heap is the best. Pitter got the championship. Andrews just got the money. I've never seen him and said he's one of the best in the league.
And he's benefiting from a passing game. I mean, we really Todd Heap he was benefiting from a passing game. So his openness is, he's more wide open. Mm-hmm. Todd Heap's catching stuff, a linebacker within, a couple feet from him all the time, usually over his head, that he has to get blown up. Right. But I don't know, man. If you're catching touchdowns, it's a passing league. Yeah. The guy has hands. He's especially with the glove. Now maybe I don't know. Did they have really good gloves back then? But he catches passes all the time, and he takes blows so much that he's out now from getting falling on his shoulder. He's not afraid to just smash himself into the ground for a play. So, but I do think he's benefiting from the open passing league. And which is why I want him more open.
You're right.
I want him open. I want several choices. I feel like I'm not an offense coach, obviously, but I think we got too much with the guy at quarterback with the RPO offense. Mm-hmm. I mean, people should be running jailbreaks all over the place. But instead, it's kind of more predictable. They'll block off. They'll double cover a couple of patterns. And then you got like two options and one option in Lamar, a dump off or Lamar. So if you want to talk about pay the guy, look at all the sacks he would take. Go back. They should have a stat for that. How many sacks did this quarterback avoid? And see what you see. Will I be watching? Those are sacks. No, they're not.
He gets out of them.
Out of them. And that's what he's saying. He's going, do you see what I see? That's what Lamar is going up. He's going, dude, this is what... Generational. Isn't he a leading rusher? I mean, he's like fourth in the league, highest average rushing per rush. Come on, man.
I'm not sure if that's
multiple back-to-back 1,000-yard, just generational.
And I asked Peter King this. I'm not sure if we've ever answered the question: is the running quarterback a good thing? And we go back to that 2013. Or 12 Super Bowl. when it was Joe Flacco and the Baltimore Ravens versus Colin Kaepernick and the 49ers, that question was supposed to be answered that day. Is it the traditional quarterback of Joe Flacco or the new hybrid of Colin Kaepernick? And if we're going based off of that Super Bowl, Joe Flacco, the traditional quarterback, won. The running quarterback, yes, Lamar Jackson is near the top, but is that good?
Joe quarterback, the traditional quarterback, won. But only by about 10 seconds. All right, because they was right on the goal line.
Gotcha.
And honestly, I have a San Francisco 49er fan. He goes, that was holding. And yes, it was. Right. It was it Jimmy Smith? I think it was Jimmy Smith held the guy in the, we barely won that game. The blackout really helped because we was blowing them out. But yeah, the traditional quarterback barely won because Cap was on it. In the second half.
You're right. At the beginning of this podcast, Mr. Bone, I mentioned that your whole family, your household, your wife, your 3 children, the Ravens is a big part. Do you have a moment, like maybe involving your family, your family and the Ravens that sticks out to you? I don't know, maybe you were watching a baseball game, watching your son play baseball, you had the Ravens on your phone. Maybe one of your children was delivered on freaking Sunday, you in the delivery room watching the Ravens game. Is there a moment that sticks out to your mind? Ravens, you, and your family.
Yes. When we surpassed that 10 seconds, we just went outside, me, my son, and my wife, just went out in a driveway out in the street and just started lighting fireworks and screaming. In a white suburban neighborhood. So yeah, if I got away with that, they don't even allow fireworks in Howard County.
Really?
We're just lighting out fireworks and yelling, just yeah. I would say that was a good moment because death was upon us.
Yeah.
I mean, they were about to score. It was over. It was the typical what he could prevent defense. I mean, that Super Bowl just went. It was like a football game broke out, then a party broke out, and then a football game broke out. And a loss was headed my way, and it wasn't.
So in the middle of February or something, you in the driveway, you, your wife, your son lighting fireworks, yelling and screaming.
Yeah, fireworks. We're screaming bird calls. No one bothers us. But yeah, I mean but it can be, some of those games, man, the fan base can take it hard. And if you put so much in it, you're gonna have some L's. So sometimes some Sundays suck.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I putting so much? They're just gonna go out to dinner. And I gotta cook. I gotta go get some groceries to eat dinner.
That's fandom.
And so I'm like, wow.
That's the life of a fan.
I kind of tone myself down a little bit. Look, it's just a game, and I don't watch ESPN for a week.
Right.
Because they're always on. And how about Stephen Smith talking about that's an embarrassment? Come on, man.
Who the Ravens got? Because we're recording this before the Monday night game. Who they got on Monday night?
I think it's New Orleans.
How you feeling about that?
I'm feeling we got the linebacker just in time because you got Taysom Hill, coming up. I hear he's 6'2", 220. Mm-hmm. He runs quarterback, running back, receiver, So
there's no way Roquan Smith can be ready to play right now. He just got to the organization.
He may not know the plays, but he's ready to play.
All right, now
he was playing in Chicago. Mm-hmm. I mean, that just says black and blue. Mm-hmm. Just going there. I mean, just playing middle linebacker, and that I would think he's ready. Battle ready.
Yeah.
So I don't think he may not know the plays, but I expect him to. He's gonna feel. I think you're gonna see a difference. I will be shocked if you do not see a difference with that guy in the middle of our defense, and it should make us better because now we can really get after the team. Knowing that we got a tackler behind us. Mm-hmm. Before you're like, oh, I went left now. There's a big hole. There's 25 yards.
You got somebody to plug those holes.
We got somebody to plug the hole. So I think you should see a big difference Monday night. But again, it's the Ravens will probably be 19-17.
19-17, okay.
Won't be fun. Sometimes the games really, I'm like, they're fun, but when they're like that, it's not fun. So, I mean, till you win.
Looking ahead. What would constitute a successful season for the Ravens?
Super Bowl.
That's where we are?
Every year. I can guarantee you this right now. Nobody in Baltimore wants playoffs. Super Bowl win.
Or bust.
Nobody. We can get to the playoffs.
Okay.
Super Bowl or bust. Every year. Because we already know we can do it. It's easy. You do it. You can be the best football team. It's hard to win a game, but you can literally hey, I think we have the best team. Nice. We're the healthiest. And that's why I say, if I see how you're coming out in training camp and I see that you're healthy, I see a couple of games, especially with the way the practice limitations they have, so you can be a little rusty. You might have some injuries. So we survive those first 5 weeks to get our feet back because that's really kind of how they get back together. Right. And I just think it's Super Bowl or bust.
Super Bowl or bust.
Super Bowl or bust.
Got it. Mr. Bowen, I appreciate you a great deal, sir. You got some shout-outs you want to give out, man? Say what's up to your people.
Free Art Modell's legacy, man. Put him in the Hall of Fame.
No? He mistreated Jim Brown when he was the Cleveland Browns owner.
If you have information, I'm open for it. Because you brought some stuff up to me now. Go right ahead. Because I don't study this. This ain't my life. I just like it's a hobby of watching.
Why do you think he belongs in the Hall of Fame? I'm just messing around, but he...
No, I want to hear. Before you go, you got to tell me.
No, Jim Brown retired. Many people say he retired because he wanted to be in movies. No, Art Modell threatened him, and he didn't want his manhood compromise, so he just said, I'm walking away. Art Modell said, if you don't get back here, because he was somewhere shooting film, I'm going to fine you. And Jim Brown was like, nah, I'm not dealing with that. And I think that's just the the beginning. I think Art Modell. I mean, he's an older white guy. I think there's some racist stuff in his past, but
no, that's different.
I gotta jump back in my books. But was he good for the Baltimore Ravens?
Well, I think he helped start some of the NFL films thing.
Okay.
I mean, we watched it.
Yeah.
I watched it as a kid. You want to know what happened back then? How was that? So if he started those archives, I mean that's
pretty cool.
Significant.
Big time.
Then he handed over a good team to a city that wanted the team that got shunned by the NFL. And
put him in the hall. Put him in the Hall of Fame.
I'm just saying, man, you can't put up NFL films and be like you did significantly. I mean, that's your whole history.
For sure. All
right. But your stuff, I don't know. I'm going to look into it. I try not to dwell on it, but I'll look into it.
You got to say what's up to the family, Mr. Bond. Any of your people at work who's going to watch this?
Yeah, what's up to my crew at work, my family. You know, I love y'all, and I wish we weren't all Raven fans so we could even out the pain. But we are all Raven fans, all are extended. So much love to all the Baltimore fans, man. For I'm not from Baltimore, so just much love to them for supporting their team and Super Bowl or bust every year. You heard it from a season ticket holder, the great Mr. Otis Bond. I'm William Holley. That's WBH Radio. We out.